Welcome to this explainer on the transition to regenerative digital sovereignty. Let's just take a collective deep breath for a second. Step away from the relentless, exhausting speed of your digital feeds. I want you to imagine we're sitting together right now, just looking ahead at the world we're going to leave for the next generation. We are in the middle of a profound shift in how we live with technology, and we're moving towards something called regenerative digital sovereignty. It's not really about the code, it's about protecting the actual soul of our communities.
And that brings us to this core idea. Healing is the first infrastructure. Usually when we talk about infrastructure, we're picturing poured concrete, right? Or laying miles of fiber optic cables. But before we can build any genuinely advanced technology or scale these global systems, we absolutely must repair our social disconnection. We have to start with the foundational act of sacred listening, really receiving the needs of the land, the water, and our people.
To understand why this is so critical, we have to look honestly at the path we're currently on. It's what we call digital colonialism 2.0. It's an incredibly extractive model where centralized tech corporations are just harvesting our sacred stories. They're taking our intergenerational wisdom and treating it like raw material for profit. And the result? Our unique cultural voices and languages are quietly flattened out by unaligned, biased corporate algorithms. It causes literal narrative erasure. We are losing our authority over our own stories. So we're pivoting away from this extractive model. We refuse to let technology act as a landlord of culture, just dictating terms and extracting value from us. Instead, we're demanding regenerative digital sovereignty. This is a paradigm shift where we reclaim our data. Technology must only ever be permitted to enter our communities respectfully. It needs to be a guest in the circle. Because think about it, a guest doesn't take over your home, right? A guest listens. So how do we actually enforce these boundaries? Well, that's where the DAWN framework comes in, the Digital Alignment and Wellbeing Network. Think of it as our digital immune system. The golden rule here is simple: governance before technology. Long before a single line of code is ever introduced to a community, human governance, ethical boundaries, and deep community trust absolutely must be established. It acts as our protective shield. And when we apply this framework to artificial intelligence, we get something truly beautiful called Wenelto. It stands for We Need to Listen to Each Other. Instead of feeding our AI toxic scraped data from all over the internet, we raise it. Literally, we raise it like a child in the village. It's a human-centered framework trained exclusively on pluralistic, verified heirloom stories that are shared directly between our youth and our elders. To make sure this AI behaves as a respectful guest, we rely on the highest security layer we possess. We call it the grandmother in the loop. This is a matrilineal intelligence system, where local elder women serve as the governing intelligence of the network. They hold permanent veto power. If any technology threatens harm or erasure, the grandmothers simply say no. And let me tell you, that veto is final. Because we have to remember this vital truth. The grandmother's wisdom is the IP. True intellectual property isn't about corporate trademarks or patents. It is our ancestral wisdom. Absolutely no digital capture occurs without a clan mother explicitly blessing and approving that story bundle. The community holds the only keys to its own digital vault. We constantly measure our alignment using an ethical mandate we call the rule of recognition. It's an inviolable rule. If a community cannot clearly recognize its own unique culture, its language, and its lived reality in a digital system's output, well then that system is ethically invalid. Simple as that. The machine has to reflect our unadulterated truth. It shouldn't be the other way around. Now, you might be wondering, what does this deployment sequence look like on the ground? It's slow, and it's highly local. We don't just drop an app on a community. We start simply with a story bench, literally a physical bench by the water. These are the smallest units of peace. Unmediated, intergenerational conversation builds relational trust. That trust leads to participation, which finally allows for co-creation. Only after that relational soil is truly healthy do we ever introduce digital infrastructure. And when that infrastructure does arrive, it can actually be joyful. Just look at tools like BubbleBot. It's a playful, ethical nervous system for local communities governed by the Wenelto Protocol. It serves as this incredibly safe, inviting entry point for our youth to steward technology, maybe logging oral histories or collecting environmental metrics, but all operating entirely under the protective, guiding trust of the village elders. Redefining our technology like this ultimately redefines our entire economy. We are finally leaving behind the weaponry economy. That's the old, extractive, scarcity-driven model that depletes our communities like a single-use battery. Instead, we're transitioning to a livery economy. Think of it functioning like a continuous solar-powered orchard. It renews life and builds community self-sufficiency year after year.
Livingry is our final destination here. It's the application of design science and infrastructure to tools that actively sustain and renew life. It moves humanity toward foundational security and abundance. So when our youth and elders do the active mending work, whether that's restoring a local watershed or securely archiving cultural memory, that work directly supports our local regenerative systems. Technology is finally serving planetary repair and human dignity.
This right here is the resonant truth, the wisdom we absolutely must pass down to the next generation. We can invent the most sophisticated digital networks in human history, but restoring our cultural connection remains our most valuable global currency. It all starts on a bench, in a circle. Because if we don't listen first, nothing else works.